Lila had always been different from the other girls in her college dorm. While they spent hours talking about boys, shopping, and weekend parties, she would sit quietly in the corner with her small notebook, writing down everything she observed. Her friends called her the quiet one, or sometimes our little researcher, because she always seemed to be studying people like she was from another world. She came from a small town where everyone knew everyone. Rules were simple. Girls wore long dresses, spoke softly, and never drew attention to themselves. Dancing was only for weddings, and even then, it was slow and careful. When Lila first arrived at the big university, everything felt overwhelming. The way girls dressed, talked, and moved seemed so free and confident. She felt like she was watching a movie where everyone knew the script except her. Every evening, Lila would write in her notebook about the strange things she saw. Today I watched the girls in my dorm put colorful paint on their faces before going out, called it makeup and said it made them feel beautiful. In my town, we believed natural faces were the most beautiful. She wrote about how girls here wore shorts and tank tops without feeling embarrassed, how they laughed loudly without covering their mouths, how they seemed so comfortable in their own skin. Her roommate, Kate, was the complete opposite of everything Lila had grown up around. Kate was loud, funny, and never seemed worried about what others thought. She would dance while brushing her teeth, sing in the shower, and wear bright colors that made her stand out in any crowd. Lila found Kate fascinating, but also a little scary. How could someone be so free and fearless? One Tuesday afternoon, Lila came back to their dorm room earlier than usual. Her chemistry class had been canceled, and she was looking forward to some quiet time to study. She opened the door and froze completely. Kate was in the middle of their small room, wearing only sports clothes, moving in ways Lila had never seen before. There was no music playing, but Kate was spinning and stretching around what looked like an imaginary pole. Lila stood in the doorway, unsure if she should leave, apologize, or pretend she hadn't seen anything. Her face turned red, and she started to back away quietly. But Kate noticed her reflection in the mirror and turned around with a big smile. "Oh, hey, you're back early," Kate said, not seeming embarrassed at all. "Perfect timing, actually. I was just practicing some moves I learned in my class." Lila's mind was spinning with questions, but she could only manage to stammer, "You're..." Kate laughed and grabbed a water bottle. "Yeah, I take pole dancing classes at a studio downtown. It's incredible exercise, and it makes me feel so strong and graceful. Want to see what I learned today?" Before Lila could answer, Kate started demonstrating different moves, explaining each one like she was teaching a science lesson. "This one is called a fireman spin. You have to use your whole body strength, not just your arms. And this one requires so much core muscle control." Lila watched in amazement. She had expected to feel shocked or uncomfortable, but instead, she felt curious. Kate moved with such confidence and joy. There was something beautiful about the way she controlled her body, the way she seemed completely free from worry or fear. "Is it ... difficult?" Lila asked quietly. "Super difficult," Kate replied, still smiling. "Could barely hang on the pole for 5 seconds when I first started. Now look." She demonstrated hanging and lifting her legs, showing incredible strength. That night, Lila couldn't stop thinking about what she had seen. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, remembering how happy and confident Kate had looked. In her small town, she had been taught that certain activities were inappropriate for good girls. But Kate wasn't a bad person. She was kind, smart, and one of the most positive people Lila had ever met. For the first time since arriving at college, Lila questioned the rules she had grown up with. Were they really about being good, or were they about being afraid? She thought about all the times she had wanted to try something new but stopped herself because of what others might think. Lila pulled out her notebook and wrote, "Today I learned that maybe the difference between my town and this place isn't about right and wrong. Maybe it's about fear and freedom. Kate doesn't seem to worry about what others think. She just does what makes her happy and strong. I wonder what that feels like." She closed her notebook and made a decision that surprised even herself. Tomorrow, she would ask Kate more questions about her classes. Not because she was planning to try it herself, that seemed impossible, but because she was genuinely curious about this world of confidence and strength that seemed so foreign to everything she had known, as she finally drifted off to sleep. Lila couldn't shake the image of Kate spinning gracefully, completely comfortable in her own skin. For the first time in her life, she wondered what it would feel like to move through the world without constantly worrying about whether she was being proper enough, quiet enough, or invisible enough. Little did she know that this small moment of curiosity would eventually change everything about how she saw herself and her place in the world. For 3 whole weeks, Lila couldn't get that image out of her head. Every time she saw Kate getting ready for her evening classes, her mind would race with questions. What was it like to move so freely? How did Kate become so confident? Most importantly, what would it feel like to try something that scared her so much? The questions followed her everywhere. During her morning lectures, she would find herself daydreaming about spinning and stretching instead of focusing on her professor's words. While eating lunch in the cafeteria, she would watch other students and wonder which ones might be brave enough to try something completely outside their comfort zone. Even during her nightly phone calls home, she would catch herself almost mentioning Kate's classes before quickly changing the subject. Her curiosity finally got the better of her one evening. When Kate was getting ready to leave, Lila was pretending to study at her desk, but she was actually watching Kate pack her gym bag through the corner of her eye. "Kate," she said quietly, "can I ask you something?" Kate looked up with her usual warm smile. "Of course. What's up?" "Oh, did you? What made you decide to start taking those classes?" Lila's voice was barely above a whisper. Kate sat down on her bed and thought for a moment. "Honestly, I was feeling really weak and clumsy when I first got to college. I tried regular gym classes, but they were boring. Then my cousin told me about this studio, and I thought, why not? Worst case scenario, I'd be terrible at it and never go back." "And you weren't scared?" "Terrified." Kate laughed. "The first time I walked into that studio, I almost turned around and left. But then I realized something. Everyone there had been a beginner once. Even the instructor told us about her first day and how she could barely climb onto the pole without falling." Felt something flutter in her chest. The idea that even confident people felt scared sometimes was new to her. In her hometown, people either did things or they didn't. No one talked about being afraid or nervous. "What's it actually like?" she asked, finally looking directly at Kate. Kate's eyes lit up. "It's like, remember when you were little and you would spin around in circles until you got dizzy, just because it felt fun? It's like that, but you're actually learning something amazing. And the strength you build, I can carry all my textbooks now without my arms getting tired." That night, Lila did something she had never done before. She searched for pole dancing videos online. She was nervous about even typing the words, worried that somehow her parents would find out from hundreds of miles away. But her curiosity was stronger than her fear. What she found surprised her completely. Instead of anything inappropriate, she discovered athletes performing incredible feats of strength and grace. She watched competitions where people moved like dancers and gymnasts combined. She saw women and men of all ages and body types, celebrating their achievements and supporting each other. One video particularly caught her attention. It showed a shy college student talking about how the classes had helped her overcome her fear of public speaking. "When you can trust your body to hold you up on a pole, you start trusting yourself in other areas too," the girl explained. Lila closed her laptop and stared at the wall. She thought about all the times she had wanted to raise her hand in class but didn't. All the times she had ideas to share but kept them to herself. All the times she had watched life happen around her instead of participating in it. The next 2 weeks were torture. Lila would work up the courage to ask Kate about joining her, then lose her nerve at the last minute. She would imagine herself trying it, then immediately picture all the ways she might embarrass herself. Her notebook filled with pages of internal arguments, lists of pros and cons, and sketches of herself both succeeding and failing spectacularly. The turning point came on a particularly difficult Thursday. Lila had gotten her first college exam back, and the grade was much lower than she had hoped. She felt homesick and lonely, like she was failing at everything. That evening, she sat in her room fighting back tears while Kate got ready for her weekly class. "You okay?" Kate asked gently, noticing Lila's sad expression. "Just feel like I'm not good at anything here," Lila admitted. "Back home, I knew exactly who I was supposed to be. Here I feel like I'm invisible. Kate sat down next to her.
Oh, you know what?
You should come with me tonight. Lila's heart jumped. Oh no, I couldn't. I'm not. I don't think I'm ready for something like that. If I told you that half the people in my class felt exactly the same way when they started? What if I promised that no one would judge you, and you could leave any time you wanted? Lila looked at Kate's encouraging face and felt something shift inside her. She was tired of being afraid. Tired of watching everyone else live their lives while she took notes from the sidelines. Tired of letting fear make all her decisions. For her? Wait, she heard herself saying, "You do this for fun? Can I try?" The words surprised her as much as they surprised Kate. She had never been spontaneous in her entire life. She had never done anything without planning it for weeks first. Kate's face broke into the biggest smile Lila had ever seen. Really? You want to come with me? Lila's hands were shaken, but she nodded. I think I need to try something. That scares me. As they walked to Kate's car, Lila felt like she was walking towards the edge of a cliff. Every step made her more nervous, but also more excited. She had no idea what she was getting herself into, but for the first time since arriving at college, she felt like she was actually living her life instead of just observing it. The drive to the studio felt both too long and too short. Lila's mind raced with questions and fears. But underneath it all was a tiny flame of excitement that grew brighter with each mile. The studio looked nothing like what Lila had imagined during her sleepless nights of worry. She had pictured dark corners, loud music, and intimidating people who would stare at her awkwardness. Instead, she found herself in a bright, clean space. With mirrors covering the walls and several tall poles positioned around the room, the lighting was warm and welcoming, and soft music played in the background. What surprised her most were the people. There were women of all ages, from college students like herself to mothers in their 40s, and even a grandmother with silver hair tied back in a neat ponytail. Some wore athletic shorts and tank tops, while others had on comfortable yoga pants and t-shirts. Everyone was chatting and laughing like they were at a friendly neighborhood gathering. "This is my roommate Lila," Kate announced to the group. "She's going to try her first class today." Instead of the judgment Lila expected, she was met with warm smiles and encouraging words. A woman named Ruby, who looked to be in her 30s, came over immediately. "Oh, how exciting. I still remember my first day. I was so nervous I almost threw up in the parking lot," Ruby laughed. "But look at me now. I've been coming here for 2 years, and I love it more every week." Another student, a college girl named Maya, overheard and joined the conversation. "I was terrified too. I thought everyone would be these super athletic dancers. But it turns out we're all just regular people trying something new and fun." The instructor, a petite woman named Jordan, clapped her hands to gather everyone's attention. She had an easy smile and spoke in a calm, encouraging voice that immediately put Lila at ease. "Welcome, everyone, and special welcome to our newcomer today," Jordan said, nodding at Lila with a warm smile. "For those trying this for the first time, remember that everyone in this room was once where you are now. We're here to support each other, not to compete or judge." Lila felt her shoulders relax slightly. Jordan explained that they would start with a gentle warm-up, then learn some basic movements, and finish with stretching. Nothing about the way she described it sounded scary or inappropriate. The warm-up was actually fun. They started with simple stretches and movements that reminded Lila of the yoga class she had tried once in high school. Jordan encouraged everyone to move at their own pace and listen to their bodies. The most important thing, Jordan explained, as they stretched, is building a relationship with your own strength. This isn't about performing for others. It's about discovering what your body can do when you trust it. When it was time to approach the poles, Lila's heart started racing again. Jordan demonstrated the first basic move, simply walking around the pole while holding on with one hand. This helps you get comfortable with the pole and starts building the connection between your hands and your movement, Jordan explained. Take your time and remember, the pole is your friend, not your enemy. Lila watched Kate and the others begin the movement. It looked simple enough, but when she tried it, herself, everything felt awkward and unnatural. Her hand kept slipping. Her steps felt clumsy, and she was sure she looked ridiculous. "Hey, you're doing great," Maya said, appearing beside her. "I remember feeling like I had 2 left feet and rubber arms during my first few classes. It gets easier, I promise." Jordan came over to help Leela adjust her grip and posture. "Perfect. See how much better that feels? Your body is already learning, even if your mind doesn't believe it yet." The next movement was a simple spin, which involved stepping around the pole and letting momentum carry you in a gentle turn. Lila watched others glide gracefully around their poles while she struggled to coordinate her feet and hands. On her third attempt, something clicked. Instead of overthinking every step, she let her body relax and trust the movement. Suddenly, she was spinning smoothly around the pole, and for just a moment, she felt what Kate had described, that sense of freedom and grace. "Yes, look at you." Kate cheered from across the room. Lila couldn't help but smile. It was the first time in months that she had felt proud of something she had accomplished. The feeling was small but powerful, like a tiny light had been turned. On inside her chest, the rest of the class focused on building basic strength and flexibility. They practiced hanging from the pole, which was much harder than it looked. Leela could barely hold herself up for 5 seconds, but Jordan assured her this was completely normal. "Strength comes with time and practice," Jordan said. "That's right. Every week you'll notice small improvements. One day you'll surprise yourself with what you can do." As the class ended with gentle stretching and relaxation, Leela found herself lying on the mat feeling completely different than she had an hour earlier. Her muscles felt worked, but not exhausted, and her mind felt clearer than it had in weeks. During the drive home, Kate couldn't contain her excitement. "So how was it? What did you think?" Leela was quiet for a moment, trying to find the right words. "It was scary," she finally said. "But also, I don't know how to explain it. For a few minutes, I forgot to be worried about what I looked like or whether I was doing it right. I just was." "That's exactly it," Kate said. "That's the feeling. That keeps bringing me back. It's like the pole doesn't care about your past or your fears. It only responds to what you're doing right now in this moment." That night, Lila wrote in her journal with shaking hands, still buzzing from the experience. "Today I learned that courage isn't about not being afraid. It's about being afraid and doing something anyway. I also learned that my body is stronger than I thought, and that maybe, just maybe, I'm braver than I believed." She closed her notebook and looked at herself in the mirror. The girl looking back at her seemed different somehow. Not completely transformed, but like someone who had taken the first step on a long and exciting journey. 3 months had passed since Leela's first terrifying visit to the studio. She barely recognized the person she had become. The girl who once apologized for taking up space in elevators now walked across campus with her shoulders back and her head held high. Her backpack, which used to feel impossibly heavy after just one class, now seemed light as a feather. She could carry all her textbooks, her laptop, groceries, without her arms getting tired. But the biggest change wasn't physical, it was in how she saw herself. Every Tuesday and Thursday evening, Lila would walk into that studio feeling like she was coming home. She had her own favorite pole now, the third one from the left. And she knew exactly where to put her water bottle and towel. The movements that once seemed impossible were becoming natural. And she found herself looking forward to learning new challenges. The breakthrough moment came during her 10th class when Jordan introduced them to something called an invert. A move where you flip upside down on the pole using only your arm and core strength. Lila had been watching the advanced students do this move for weeks, convinced it was something she would never be able to attempt. "Today we're going to try something new," Jordan announced. "Don't worry if you can't get it right away. This move takes most people months to master, and some people need even longer. The important thing is to try and see what your body is capable of." Lila's stomach fluttered with nerves and excitement. She watched as Jordan demonstrated the movement, making it look effortless and graceful. Then the other students began attempting it one by one. Some got it immediately, others struggled, and a few decided to stick with easier moves they were still perfecting. When it was Lila's turn, she approached her pole with shaking hands. She had been building strength for months now, but this felt like a completely different level of challenge. She gripped the pole, took a deep breath, and tried to lift her legs up. Nothing happened. Her body stayed firmly on the ground. "Okay," Jordan said gently. "Try engaging your core muscles more and really pull with your arms." Layla tried again. This time, she felt her feet leave the ground for just a second before she came back down. Her heart was pounding, but not from fear, from excitement. "I almost had it," she told Kate, who was cheering her on from the next pole. "You totally did. Try again?" On her third attempt, something magical happened. Leela felt her body lift up, and suddenly she was hanging upside down. Her legs wrapped around the pole, looking at the world from a completely new angle. The rush of accomplishment was unlike anything she had ever experienced. "I did it. I actually did it," she shouted, forgetting for a moment that she was the quiet girl who never raised her voice. The entire class erupted in cheers and applause. Ruby rushed over to give her a high five, and even the advanced students stopped their own practice to celebrate with her. Lila carefully came down from the pole, her face glowing with pride and disbelief. That night she called her parents for their weekly check-in. And for the first time in months, she had exciting news to share instead of just polite updates about her classes and grades. "Mom, Dad, I learned to do something incredible today," she began, then paused. How could she explain this new world she had discovered without worrying them? "What is it, sweetheart?" her mother asked. "I've been taking fitness classes, and today I learned to do a move that requires incredible strength. I hung upside down using only my arms and core muscles. I never thought I could do something like that." There was a moment of silence on the other end of the phone. Lila's heart sank, thinking they were disappointed or confused. "That sounds amazing, honey," her father finally said. "You sound so happy and confident. What kind of fitness classes are these?" Lila took a deep breath. They're called pole fitness classes. I know it might sound strange, but it's really just athletic training that builds strength and flexibility. It's helped me become more confident and physically strong. Another pause, then her mother spoke up. "Lila, we can hear the joy in your voice. You sound like a completely different person, more sure of yourself, more excited about life. Don't fully understand this activity, but we can see it's been good for you," her father added. "When you first went to college, you sounded so lost and uncertain in our phone calls. Now you sound like you found something that makes you truly happy, that matters more to us than anything else." Lila felt tears welling up in her eyes, but they were happy tears. Her parents might not understand her new passion, but they could see how it had changed her for the better. The real test came a few weeks later. When her parents announced they were planning to visit for the college's family weekend, Lila panicked. She had been honest about her classes, but having them actually see the studio and meet her classmates felt terrifying. "What if they're shocked when they see what we actually do?" Lila asked Kate one evening. "Then you show them how strong and confident you've become," Kate replied. "You show them the community of supportive people you found. You let them see that this isn't about anything inappropriate. It's about you becoming the best version of yourself." When family weekend arrived, Lila's parents were amazed by the change in their daughter. She walked differently, spoke more confidently, and seemed genuinely happy. At dinner, she told them stories about her classmates and her instructor, with such enthusiasm that they couldn't help but smile. "We'd love to see where you take these classes," her mother said. "If it's made such a positive difference in your life, we want to understand it better." The next day, Lila nervously brought her parents to the studio. Jordan graciously gave them a tour, explaining the athletic aspects of pole fitness and showing them some of the strength and flexibility moves. She introduced them to some of the other students and their families who were also visiting, watching her parents see the welcoming, supportive environment and meet the wonderful people who had become like a second family to her. Lila felt a weight lift from her shoulders. They might not completely understand her new passion, but they could see with their own eyes that it was something positive and healthy. Her mother pulled her aside before they left. "Lila, I may not understand everything about this activity, but I cannot argue with the strong, confident young woman you've become. You're glowing with happiness and self-assurance. That's all we ever wanted for you." By the end of her first year at college, Lila had become someone she never imagined she could be. The girl who once hid in oversized sweaters now wore fitted athletic clothes with confidence. She had developed real friendships with her classmates. At the studio, and her academic performance had improved dramatically. When teachers asked questions in class, her hand was often the first one in the air. The ultimate test of her transformation came when Jordan announced the studio's annual showcase, a performance where students could demonstrate what they had learned throughout the year. It was completely optional, but everyone was encouraged to participate if they felt ready. A showcase? Lila asked Kate as they walked home from class that evening. Like performing in front of people who aren't in our classes? It's actually really fun, Kate explained. Family and friends come to watch, and it's not about being perfect. It's about celebrating how far you've come and sharing your progress with people who care about you. The idea terrified and thrilled Lila in equal measure. A year ago, she wouldn't have even considered such a thing. Standing in front of strangers and performing movements that required confidence and grace seemed impossible for the shy girl she used to be. But now a part of her was curious about what it might feel like to share this passion that had changed her life so completely. What if I mess up in front of everyone? Lila worried. Then you smile and keep going, Kate said with a grin. That's what Jordan always tells us. It's not about perfection, it's about courage. For the next 2 weeks, Lila went back and forth on the decision. She would watch other students practicing their showcase routines and feel inspired, then immediately doubt herself and decide she wasn't ready. Her notebook filled with lists of reasons why she should and shouldn't participate. The decision was made for her during a particularly challenging class. Jordan was teaching them a new combination of moves, and Lila found herself flowing through the sequence with grace and confidence she didn't know she possessed. When she finished, the entire class spontaneously applauded. Lila, that was beautiful, Jordan said, with genuine admiration. You should definitely consider performing that combination in the showcase. Ruby nodded enthusiastically. You have to do the showcase. You've come so far, and that routine was absolutely lovely. Even Maya, who had become one of Lila's closest friends at the studio, encouraged her. Remember your first day, when you could barely walk around the pole? Look at you now. You have to share this with everyone. That night, Lila called her parents with surprising news. I've decided to perform in our studio showcase, she announced, her voice strong and clear. Perform? Her mother asked, sounding both surprised and proud. It's like a recital where we show family and friends what we've learned. I want you both to come and see how much I've grown this year. Her father's voice was warm with pride. We wouldn't miss it for the world, sweetheart. We're so proud of your courage. The weeks leading up to the showcase were intense. Lila practiced her routine constantly, working on each movement until it felt natural and graceful. She chose a song about overcoming fear and finding inner strength. Lyrics that perfectly captured her journey from the scared, uncertain girl who had arrived at college to the confident young woman she had become. Jordan helped her put together a routine that showcased all the skills she had developed. Spins, climbs, and even the invert that had been such a breakthrough moment. The routine told the story of her transformation through movement and music. The night of the showcase, Lila stood backstage in her performance. Outfit, athletic shorts, and a fitted top that she would never have imagined wearing in public a year earlier. Her heart was pounding, but it wasn't the paralyzing fear she used to feel. It was the excited energy of someone about to share something meaningful with people she cared about. She peeked through the curtain and saw the audience filled with family members, friends, and supporters. Her parents sat in the front row, looking nervous but proud. Kate was there with several friends from their dorm. She could see Ruby's family and Maya's boyfriend cheering loudly for the earlier performers. When Lila's name was called, she walked onto the stage with her head held high. The lights were bright, and for a moment she felt dizzy with the attention. Then the music started, and everything else disappeared. She began her routine with the simple walk around the pole that had seemed so difficult during her first class. Now it was graceful and confident, setting the tone for everything that followed. She flowed through her spins, each one controlled and beautiful. When she reached the invert, the move that had once seemed impossible, she executed it perfectly, holding the position as the music swelled. From the audience, she could hear Kate cheering and her parents clapping enthusiastically. But the most important sound was her own inner voice, finally free from fear and doubt, saying, "Look what you can do. Look how far you've come." The routine ended with Lila in a graceful pose, one arm extended toward the audience, a smile of pure joy on her face. The applause was thunderous, but more importantly, she felt complete. She had shared her authentic self with the world, and it felt incredible. After the showcase, Lila was surrounded by friends and family congratulating her. Her parents couldn't stop talking about how proud they were, not just of her performance, but of the confident, radiant person she had become. When you walked onto that stage, her mother said with tears in her eyes, "I saw a completely different person than the scared girl we dropped off at college." You were glowing with confidence and joy. Her father hugged her tightly. "We may not have understood this journey at first, but seeing you tonight, we know it was exactly what you needed." Later that evening, as Lila reflected on the entire experience, she realized that the showcase had been the perfect full-circle moment. She had gone from being a curious observer of other people's confidence to someone who could inspire others with her own courage and growth. Jordan approached her as she was packing up her things. "Lila, I hope you know how much you've inspired everyone here. Your transformation has been remarkable to watch, and your performance tonight was absolutely beautiful." "Thank you, Lila," replied, "for creating a space where I could discover who I really am." As she walked out of the studio that night, Lila thought about the girl who had first walked through those doors almost a year earlier. That girl had been so afraid of being seen, so worried about what others might think, so convinced that she wasn't capable of anything extraordinary. Now she knew the truth. Courage wasn't about not being afraid. It was about feeling the fear and choosing growth anyway. It was about trusting your body, your instincts, and your inner strength. Most importantly, it was about giving yourself permission to be authentically, unapologetically yourself. The quiet observer had become a confident participant in her own life. And that transformation had started with 5 simple words. "Wait, you do this for fun?"